Hey, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to do a breakdown of the new patch in a slightly different style where I won't show you the changes in game and stuff because that just takes too long to edit, and I just want to get this video out to you faster, and I also want to make videos about the actual gameplay and the changes, like picking up the new items and whatnot in game. So I want to bring you more gameplay, and to do that sooner I just need to do this video fast. So I'm just going to go through the changes and give you my comments and then give the rating on the patch overall at the end, and that's really kind of it. So the first change is to towers. They give less gold now. They're obviously trying to fix the issue of pushing heroes being too strong, picked in every competitive game. A lot of the patch is just competitive focus. Did I tell you it's 3.3? Yeah, this is an awesome video already. So yeah, they're just reducing the gold that the towers give. The final towers still kind of give more or the same gold, so they're kind of making up the difference there. If you really push into the base and try win the game, then it won't matter, but really just trying to give less gold to heroes early for pushing the towers and making that strategy a bit less viable and others a bit more viable. I guess it's a good change if that's what happens in every competitive game. At least the most popular team is Stay Green really likes to do that, so they're trying to nerf that. So it's okay. Why is there stuff selected on my screen? Okay, we're moving on. Next we have 3 heroes added to tournament rules. Not much to say there, apart from the fact that I think they're all being released in kind of an underpowered state. I think everyone will agree, and it's kind of understandable. I mean, you don't want heroes to be too strong when they're released into the competitive scene, so understandable there. So first changes to Ra. You might have seen my jungle Ra video. And this directly nerfs that, and that's why I'm not really sure about this nerf. So basically, armor is reduced by half. You're probably thinking, half armor, who cares? It's actually kind of significant, and my problem with it is that jungling with Ra, even though it allows you to get like 400 GPM and a Behemoth's Heart, Shaman's Headdress, Helm Black Legion, Steam Boots by 23 minutes, it's not easy to pull off. It's a difficult thing to do. Most of the time you'll be like 200-300 GPM, especially if someone comes and ganks you once or twice. So this directly nerfs that, as well as his laning phase. So I'm kind of on the fence here. On one hand, Ra had at least the highest win percentage in the game, so it can't be ignored. He's stomping. Not sure if it's just pubs or higher brackets too. Have heard reports that higher brackets are having problems with heroes also. My problem is that even though he needs a nerf, I think maybe this is not the best way to nerf him, because jungling Ra is already kind of difficult to get a decent GPM. I mean, he can get decent farm, but like he's not one of those heroes who can put that farm to super good use, because he just runs around and deals AoE damage, but he doesn't really do much else. It's kind of difficult, and it's easy to kite him, really easy, and he can be taken down. But yeah, I think maybe a better idea would have been to nerf the damage in his Q, so that in lane he's a bit less annoying to deal with, and nerf him that way instead of just nerfing his kind of everything and laning and jungle. So yeah, nerf to Ra. Artillery, nerf to his Q. It basically, when the rockets explode, either on impact or at the end of the range, they deal AoE damage. So they still deal some damage even if you kind of miss them. So now they change it so that the more you miss them, the less damage they deal. So this is huge, and this really hurts artillery a lot. So my opinion on this is that artillery was really strong in lane. In jungle, he's kind of a trash hero, I think. So I still prefer laning artillery, and this does nerf laning and jungling artillery both. So I don't think artillery was too crazy good or anything, but he is getting released into the competitive scene, and he was picked up before and he was like removed from tournament mode because he was too strong. Now he's re-added after the rework, so we'll see how that works, but at least the buff or nerf is understandable. So I guess a nerf to his most powerful skill was in order, so maybe other build orders are more viable now. Next is Blood Hunter. He now has an active effect on his second skill that gives him life, and basically it allows you to kill a creep, an enemy creep only though. So what do I think about this change? It's weird because Blood Hunter stomps pretty well. He has one of the highest win percentages in the game, so now this makes him even stronger. In other words, in pubs he'll be much more difficult to deal with. So Blood Hunter, I hate this hero because the way he works is that you go into the lane and you either win completely or get crushed completely. Like, if you don't get crushed, if you don't get completely harassed out of the lane or like killed a few times, you will stay and you will get farm guaranteed, and probably will kill the enemy hero once or twice on level 6, or you will gank and get kills that way. So Bloodhunter, really difficult hero to deal with, because like, if you don't completely harass him out, he will stay there, he will get farm. So this makes it even more difficult to play against him. I'm not even sure if there are many counters to him now, because he can just like eat a creep anyway. I guess you can still kind of try harass him early game out, but you also have to consider this gives him more rune control, because usually he goes mid, and if you go mid and you can kill a full HP creep really fast, this will help you like clear out the creep wave and go maybe get a rune, while the enemy hero has to stay and get the experience. So this definitely makes Bloodhunter more interesting to play, but only because he's like overpowered now, basically. So I will definitely play Bloodhunter, probably for a video after this change, because he's really strong now, I think. I think he should have been nerfed in another way, but Bloodhunter is just a hero overall that just needs a rework, because I think it's just a bad design that if you can harass him out, you lose, and he gets farm. And like, the only thing you can do against him potentially is try like get more farm and like outlast hit him, but like, it's not as fun or as good. But yeah, I'll definitely play him. Don't agree with this buff, even though the change is interesting. They should have like nerfed him or adjusted him accordingly, nerfed something else. Chronos, his passive now automatically counts down every 5 seconds instead of staying. It's kind of small buff to Chronos, but like whatever. Defiler, whatever, slight increase in damage, agree there, she need the buff, I think. Electrician, also whatever changes, the electric shield mana cost decrease to activate. It took 20% of your maximum mana, so that extra 5 mana is like, whatever, doesn't really matter much. And your ultimate has been buffed, less mana cost, less cooldown, instantly kills illusions and summon units instead of just dealing damage to them. It's okay, I guess, but it's like nothing too crazy, and I do agree that Electrician needs buffs, but I thought he could have used more Elonia. This is actually kind of a nerf to her, so her flash freeze damage has been decreased, and damage per charge has been increased to try and compensate for it so that people don't use it right away. The problem that S2 doesn't realize here, I think, is that the reason people use the stun first is not because, oh, the damage is good right away, so I'll just use it right away and then try land other skills or whatever. No, it's not because the damage was high right away that people used it. They used it to set the target in place and then land some other skills, because her skill shots are pretty difficult to land. Like, okay, your second skill is kind of easy to land, but it doesn't give many charges. Your first skill is very difficult to land. So people just use the stun as a means to kind of set the target in place and land a few hits so that it's slowed and it's easier to try and land further hits. Not because the damage was so good. I don't think that's what people were thinking about. So, that's not the right way to fix it, I think. They already did buff her, though, making her first skill easier to land. So I'm not sure if I agree or disagree with this change. Elonia is kind of a decent hero now, but she still has huge mana problems. So overall, I think this change kind of maybe... No, it's just a bad change. I think it was made for the wrong reasons. So, yeah. So that's my take on that. Emerald Warden actually got nerfed, so... Wow. Okay. So I had the impression when I was reading this patch that it was for the competitive scene and not like made by some 1300 pub who got stomped really hard and was like, oh man, this hero is too strong, I'm gonna nerf it. But this change gives me that impression. Someone from S2 in the below 1500 bracket was stomped really hard and he was like, wow, this hero needs a nerf and I'm gonna nerf him and there's nothing I can do. But like, really? Really, an Emerald Warden nerf? He's like one of the weakest heroes right now because like he doesn't have a good farming mechanism. Like the only thing that helps him farm, arguably, is his third skill, which was now nerfed even further, and agility gain has been decreased. Like Emerald Warden already has problems. The only like good thing I can think of about the hero is that his third skill can be used to block camps. So you level it first on level 1 and go into the enemy jungle and block some camps, and it's really difficult to find because you have to go through the trees and it can be placed in trees, unlike the Scout Electric Eye, which is more difficult to do so. So Nerfed Emerald Warden, I don't understand why. Someone was stomped hard by this hero. This is a horrible change. I hate it. The only thing that can potentially save this hero now is like for people to kind of learn a bit more skill on using his third ability, the E, the trap. So once you use the trap, it can be instantly triggered. So you don't have to wait for it to like time and then appear. You can set it and try attack it instantly, which will instantly trigger it. So the payoff for doing so though is now lower because it has been nerfed. Buffed on level 1, but nerfed on all the other levels pretty much. Yeah, that's just one thing you can try, guys. Just set the trap, and like the moment you set it, before it like activates, you can already attack it and trigger it early, and it will capture whoever's like in it. So that's something you can try do when you're like running away or chasing someone. Kind of a skill shot, and especially if you just level it once to try and like place 2 traps and block some enemy jungles, and the third trap safe for like the laning phase. But yeah, overall nerfs to Emerald Warden, I don't agree with them. I don't like them. I think he should have been nerfed in some other way potentially. But yeah, kind of change. I don't like it. Next, Engineer. Apparently he's a super strong hero, so the mana cost of his keg was increased. The damage was decreased on early levels, and Steam Turret, the duration has been decreased because it was physical, and going through Shrunken Head is such a horrible thing, and it's too strong, and the energy field cooldown was increased on earlier levels too. So what I think about these changes is I never saw Electrician as Engineer is that powerful of a hero, but on the competitive scene he has been wrecking pretty hard, and his ultimate is pretty annoying. So I guess I can understand this change, but I'll just leave my opinion this neutral because I don't want an Engineer nerf, but at the same time I feel like one is needed and I can understand it. Next I have Gravekeeper. So first of all, the range and cooldown, the range has been increased on his first skill, the cooldown has been decreased. In other words, his first skill is now much better. But keep in mind though that it still costs the same amount of mana, and you can still roughly use it the same amount of time as before if you were using it to like harass your opponents. An important thing though is that it now only takes 7 seconds to get your third stun if you already have 2 charges instead of 9 seconds. So that's kind of significant. For the third stun, you will probably almost always pull it off now. Then the slow on your third skill has been increased, which was horrible to begin with, so finally they're buffing that. The duration has been increased and the movement speed slow increase. Yeah, overall good changes. I'm not sure if this will be enough to make Gravekeeper viable, but I can definitely see how Gravekeeper needed them. Next, Hellbringer, his first skill, the slow, applies in a 300 AoE around the target, which makes it better, and I think that Hellbringer did need a buff, but I'm not sure if this is enough. I mean, how often there will be a lot of heroes that you can like pull this off on successfully, like a lot of heroes bunched up that you can slow and that will make an impact. Like most of the time you'll just still use it on one hero you're trying to chase most of the time. It's like trying to land Magebane's ultimate and hit several people. It's not easy for sure, and the effects aren't as apparent. So kind of above, but could have been better, I think. But yeah, whatever. Keeper of the Forest has received some nerfs. So Keeper of the Forest is basically this super boring hero that goes into your lane, if he goes into lane, and there's nothing you can do against him. Even when he goes into the jungle, there's nothing he can do until level 6, and you can't really gank him much unless you get Revelation, which happens rarely. So now that is being addressed, he's easier to lane against, easier to gank, because the armor in his, the default armor he has been decreased, and region of his first skill has been decreased as well. Mana cost has been increased, and animated trees are a bit weaker. So just several buffs to Keeper of the Forest. I think he nerfs. I think he needed them to make him less of a boring hero, but the problem I have is that the issues the hero has are still there. I mean, Keeper is arguably just a walking ultimate by design. Like he walks in, he ulties, he's done. Like his job is complete, and that's not a very fun playstyle. And they're nerfing his pushing power too, which was like his other potential playstyle to just push around the map. So I like the nerfs, the direction of these nerfs, like nerfing the boringness of the hero, the boring part of the hero. What I don't like though is that there's no compensation. Like his boring parts are nerfed, and yes, he will be like less annoying to deal with, and yes, we will see him less on the competitive scene because those were the reasons the hero was picked with. picked 4 because he goes into the suicide lane and you can't do anything about it. But he wasn't buffed in any other way, like his strengths weren't made stronger. So I don't like these changes because they address his like annoyingness, but they don't make him more fun to play. So could have been better, not very good. Next we have Kinesis. This was one of the leak changes. There's a lot of stuff. So basically now you can pick stuff up and throw it without stopping your attacks or walking. Also, the cooldown has been decreased slightly, so you can pick stuff up more often. The radius where you can pick up stuff has been increased, which is okay, but the throw range is still the same. The cast action time, yeah, that's mentioned. You can do it while walking. And the important change is that your third skill, the passive, now gives you movement speed based on how much shield you have. Now that is huge because you can reach insane speeds by just like using a couple of your skills. And keep in mind, the values for your shield haven't been like nerfed. As you can see here, they have actually been buffed. So from 12.5% in level 1 to 20, and still 50% on maximum level. So maxing out your shield is not that difficult, and you will now have insane movement speed to go with it. Kinesis will be a beast now, and I actually like it because the concept of a hero is good. A hero that lifts stuff up and throws it around. I like the concept, but he was like weak, so he couldn't really show his full potential, but now he can. I think these changes will definitely make a difference. Like, this makes a difference, unlike most of these other changes. And also your ultimate causes all the objects you've lifted to follow you around. This includes object that you have lifted with your second skill. After you use your ultimate, they will start following you around as well. It just basically makes it a bit easier to land, but nothing too special. Most of the time you could just land it anyway. Next we have changes to Clanks, the underpowered new hero, which was trash. So your second skill now does not go on cooldown from damage, but the duration still gets decreased every time you get attacked, so that stayed. Just like you can simply use it instantly now no matter what if you still haven't. And the ultimate, the movement speed of your goons has been increased by 100, which doesn't make much difference. In other words, this hero is still bad. I said this in my review. I wish there were more changes. I'm disappointed. Next we have Martyr. Cooldown decreased on his second skill, and the damage reduction increased on earlier levels, so it's basically a buff to his early game. This is straight up a buff to his early game. Why? Martyr, the problem with the hero is that he's bad late game. Like, early game, there's no issue with the hero. He deals a ton of damage and slows very well. Come on. Why buff his early game even more? The problem is, if you don't get farm late game, you're basically there to heal one person. Like, potentially heal. If you're low on health, then forget about that. You can only heal yourself, which is pretty much useless. Like, you need to heal a carry late game, and that's all you can do. Really. And if you try to use your second skill on a carry, well, good luck with healing, because you'll be red HP. Much faster than your ally. But basically they're addressing the wrong stuff. Martyr players rejoice. The uptime and damage reduction of your second skill has been increased. Martyr can now share a significant portion of pain as an underlevel support. Wow. Jesus, that wasn't the problem with the hero at all. So yeah, trash changes. We won't see him more, especially in the competitive scene. Who makes this stuff? Come on, I mean, serious? My throat is starting to hurt. Master of Arms nerf because he was packed in the competitive scene and can't do too much, but it's not too big of a nerf. Stun range reduced by 50 on his first skill, which is kind of significant. Sometimes when you're chasing, it will mean that you will miss a few kills now, because there will be situations where the enemy will get away because of this nerf. And the slow on your second skill, the Fork Lightning, has been decreased in earlier levels, which it's noticeable, but not too significant or anything. But yeah, nerfs because he's picked a lot, but I didn't think he was that strong of a hero or anything. So, huge change to Midas. You can now level his ultimate from level 4, which means you can stun from level 4, which means he's no longer horrible trash bad. The problem with this hero is that you need level 6 before you can do anything. You need it. That's why people often send him to mid lane, because if you don't get level 6, you're just trash. So now you can lane with this hero in the side lane and potentially actually do something. So, yeah. Good. Good change. Finally, Midas can see some use. I will probably try and play Midas too. But yeah, being able to stun from level 4 instead of level 6 is huge. So can't wait to see how that change turns out. Then Monarch, her first skill has been buffed. It has more range, but the projectile travels slower. Like the travel speed is like whatever, but the range increase is huge. Then we have the duration of your second skill decreased. A much better idea I heard 10,000 times in the forums is that allowing you to deactivate your second skill whenever you want to allows more counterplay and stuff. Just a more interesting version of the skill instead of just reducing the duration. The heal has been increased to compensate, I guess. It's listed as a buff, but overall you will heal less than before, so that kind of sucks. And the damage reduction is now 50% on lower levels, which means that it's basically more of a one-point wonder skill. That's all it means. Your third skill has an increase in range at the start and kind of increase in range at the end of it. So basically a buff to the AoE of your third skill, which means the enemies will be slowed for longer and deal damage. And like, there wasn't really much of a problem with your third skill. It was a pretty strong skill. The problem was that your second skill was completely skipped most of the time because it was so bad, and your first skill was like a trash stun that doesn't deal as much damage as other support heroes. So definitely necessary changes, and the AoE of your ultimate has been increased, but like that doesn't matter too much, I think. So my opinion on this is that these are good buffs, but might not be enough. Especially annoying because one of the uses of your second skill late game was to heal, and that's pretty much it. It wasn't used to like reduce damage. It was just you're pushing and you have like 5 seconds free, so you're just like, well, I'm gonna heal my carry for a bit. So now that's worse actually, which I do not like. Next we have a change to Nighthound. This is a really good change because the way they're changing him, they're buffing, but they're buffing in a way that allows more counterplay. So basically now he deals even more damage from the back. So very important, guys. Keep in mind, the bonus damage multiplier works on agility, so get agility, don't get just damage. So that's important. Potentially this makes Steam Boots more important on the hero, but Ghost Watchers are really good on them. I really like them. So, yeah, I like this change. It goes in the right direction, but I'm not sure if it's enough because it's 20% extra damage in level 4, which early game is like 15 extra damage, and late game it's like 30 extra damage. It's not significant by any means, but it's a step in the right direction, I guess. I would have preferred it to be buffed more, like 40, 80, 120, 160%. That would have been interesting. And you're like, well, but that's overpowered. SomaZ, like, 900 will be broken. No, you just face him and he gets 0. So that's counterplay. That's what counterplay means. There's a way to counter it. You just turn around and you don't run away from him, and then he doesn't deal 160% bonus damage all of a sudden. So yeah, could be buffed more, I think, if they really wanted to emphasize that playstyle, but they decided to go the safe route, which I'm a bit disappointed with. Next we have changes to Ugi. Finally, his first skill doesn't get a 10,000 mana cost after he cast it once, so that's good. The cooldown of your third skill has been decreased, and the cooldown decreases much faster if you are using mana, so you can use your third skill much more often. And very importantly, your ultimate cooldown has been decreased on early levels, which is huge because the way Ugi is played is without your ultimate, you're kind of bad. So now you're much better. Sorry, I got some water. My throat feels much better. So yeah, I like the changes on Ugi, but the problem with him as a hero was that his first kill was too hard to land, and it's still too hard to land, but at least now you're punished less for it. But other than that, yeah, they kind of addressed his issues. Your ultimate now has a lower cooldown, lower levels, so that you're useless much less of the time. The other two buffs to his third skill, though, I don't feel like they were horribly necessary or anything, because most of the time you have two builds in the hero. You either max Q and E or you max W and E. Like, E was not a problem, it was a decent skill, but now they're making it stronger, just an overall buff to Ugi, and yeah, I think the buff makes him better, but I think it could be a better buff, because, or rather, I'd much prefer just changes to him to make his first skill easier to land or something, because he's not a weak hero, he's good, and he's buffed further now. So if you're missing your first skill constantly, you will do okay. If you're not, you'll rape people really hard. So yeah, kind of feeling a bit weird because I thought Ugi was a strong hero, and I'm sure most people would agree, especially if he goes mid. But yeah, let's move on. Pharaoh. Intelligence increased by 2, intelligence gain increased by 0.2. This gives him 2 extra intelligence on like level 25 or something. What the hell? Like, So let's read what Istu says about this. Often a great compliment to a team, the Pharaoh has always been constantly mana starved. Really? He was always mana starved? Oh. Oh, so that was the problem with the hero. I thought it's like the fact that he deals like 0 damage. Pharaoh has received some additional intelligence to reduce his farming requirements and encourage more ganking. So you increase his intelligence by 2 to fix him. Okay. My opinion is that Pharaoh is overall just kind of a weak hero because the novelty has worn off, and now I think everyone can see that your first skill deals decent damage but is really difficult to land. Your third skill doesn't deal that much damage, and really the only good thing about you is that you can stun with your ultimate and set up kills, but other than that the hero is just weak in the other regards. And that's the problem with the hero, not that he has not enough mana. Like, you get a bottle and like sometimes a blood chalice or a ring of a teacher, and that's really enough. His mana costs are really low. I don't understand. So yeah, shady changes. And a Pestilence nerf because, oh my god, he was picked in the competitive scene, we must nerf him now. So strength has been reduced by 0.3, which is kind of significant, makes him worse of a carry. Agility gain decreased, which also makes him worse of a carry by 0.4. So he attacks less and he has less armor now. And gore damage has been also decreased. But it was kind of a one-point wonder skill anyway early game, but the damage decrease late game will make a difference. So basically Pestilence is now much worse of a carry, which I do not like. The main strength of the hero, apart from the potential to be a carry, is that he has a freaking ridiculous stun that lasts for 2 seconds and then slows you for 2 seconds afterwards and has like a 6-second cooldown or whatever. And it was pretty difficult to carry with him because he doesn't really have a farming ability apart from your second skill maybe and kind of your passive, which helps with damage, which slowed down even more now. It was difficult to carry on this guy. He was mainly picked for his initiation potential, and they're like, oh, so people are picking him because he initiates very well. Let's nerf his carry potential. So I guess they don't want him to be a carry, which is kind of boring because what else can he be? I mean, like, initiating is fine, but like, what do you do afterwards? He's a strength hero. Like, kind of a weird change. So I kind of feel wonky about it. I think they maybe could have like nerfed his stun to like maybe increase its cooldown, and that would have been fine. But no, apparently they need to nerf his carry potential and make him more boring of a hero. Well, good job, S2. Next, Polywog Priest. The AoE of your first skill has been increased by 100. So, like, whatever. I don't care. Ravenor. Picked on the competitive scene. Oh my god, we need to nerf him. So intelligence gain has been decreased. Base damage has been decreased. Mana cost on his both skills has been pretty much increased. What do I think about these changes? I think this sucks. This sucks. Ravenor was just picked up. He wasn't that super strong or anything, and a big thing with him is that if you miss your first skill, you're done. So there are two main design issues with this hero. You miss your first skill, you're done, and it's really hard to keep up charges and your ultimate. It's really difficult to stay high on the charges. So I think those two design issues should have been fixed if you are to nerf him, and like maybe then his damage output can be decreased, because otherwise he's just a very weird hero. So they made it so that you can use your skills much less often, so if you miss them there's even more of an impact, and his damage has been decreased a little bit. But okay, I guess, whatever. These changes basically don't make me go, wow, I can't believe I didn't think of that, or like, well, yes, this is what had to be done. They just make me think weird, which makes me think those are kind of bad changes, to be honest. So Wraith annoyed everyone enough. His agility gain has been decreased from 2.2 to 2, which is probably one of the lowest primary attribute gains in the game. But okay, then his magic armor has also been decreased, nerfed horribly to 4.0, which is one of the, if not the lowest in the game. There's probably one more here with like 4 magic armor, but I'm not sure. The movement speed on his first skill has been decreased, so it's much more difficult to chase people. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but okay, I suppose. And a buff to his illusions, they now last 1 extra second in higher levels, which isn't a big deal, really. And the cooldown has been increased on earlier levels. So basically we have overall huge nerfs to Wraith's early game, which his early game already kind of sucked. His late game is also nerfed a bit, but not too much. My opinion on these changes is that some kind of nerf was necessary. Wraith is really, really good. I have to agree there that nerfs were in order, but I'm not sure these were the nerfs necessary. They're kind of like weird. Especially the huge magic armor decrease. I mean, it's already difficult to lane with this hero, and like, I don't care that he gets like a ton of farm in his safe lane in the competitive games. Usually, you will be laning in a standard 2 against 2 situation where Wraith is not that good, and with these nerfs, it's gonna be even harder. So, a really big problem is that he's basically a carry that can teleport and kill you from anywhere. So, I think the correct way to fix him would have been to just hugely increase the cooldown of his ultimate, or like maybe even reduce the duration of the illusions on the earlier level so that you have to teleport faster or it's wasted, so that the enemy team can react much faster and find the real you faster. So yeah, I would have preferred like an increase to maybe like 150, 120, 90 seconds cooldown or something. Maybe even more than that, and a decrease on the duration. But yeah, they decided to nerf him this way, and I'm not sure I agree with it, but nerf was in order, so whatever. Next change, Scout got chemotherapy. He's no longer cancer, and they nerfed him in the right way, believe it or not. So the first skill, the mana cost has been increased from 30 to 50. The fake time has been increased from 0.5 to 1. The movement speed bonus has been decreased, and also ice can now be destroyed in 1 hit instead of 0. So basically, first I'll mention the second skill change. The hit points from 200 to 1. They changed one of the annoying things with the hero, where he places an eye, and early game you just try to kill it, but you fail because it just has too much health, and then Scout just like uses the silence and destroys it in your face. So now he can no longer do that, and keep in mind it still gives you gold if you kill it. So basically made him much less annoying to play against, which is very important considering how cancerous he is. And his first skill was changed in a way that I actually wanted, because my idea was actually to like change the movement speed bonus to like 0 for like 812 or something like that, but they decided to still keep a slight movement speed buff on the first level, because my reasoning was that having Invis on level 1 is already really strong as a suicide player. On top of that, giving him a movement speed bonus was kind of a bit overkill, so I wanted to at least remove that so that if you do get Revelation to try and counter him, you're kind of rewarded. So they did nerf it a little bit, but decided to kind of keep it. So whatever, but the more important changes are, first of all, the fate time increase, which makes him less annoying to play against because you have much more time to like land a stun or something, or land an extra attack perhaps before he goes invis. So that's going to be huge. It's a really big fate time increase, trust me. And also it will sometimes reveal Scout when like he teleports. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, fate time makes him less annoying to play against. Vanish mana cost increase though, I don't think it will have a significant impact on how often you can use Vanish early game, because usually you have enough mana to use invisibility a few times when you're in a rough spot, and I get a mana potion anyway as part of my build, so this won't affect me much. However, what this does affect is your farming speed. Basically, now to get those 4 extra fast attacks, you need to spend 20 more mana. which is pretty big considering how fast you run out of mana. Potentially, this could change my build from after Ruined Cleaver and Ghost Marchers getting an Ice Brand, so that it gives a bit of damage and makes me survive better and chase people. I might have to switch to getting a Lightbrand first, because I just really need that mana so much now, instead of getting it last. So this will definitely slow down his farming speed a bit, which I think was necessary, because it's kind of unfair that I go in a suicide lane and like kind of potentially even lose and then come out in the end with like 600 GPM. It's just not fair. It shouldn't happen. So they nerf his farming speed. So overall, he's pretty much unchanged in how he plays in lane, kind of. But intelligence gain was increased to compensate, but that doesn't change much, to be honest. So yeah, hopefully I won't see Scout in every game now, and I can play Hot 1800 and like not mention cancer sometimes every minute. That would be good. Whoops. Next we have Sir Benzington, some buffs. So first of all, the mana cost decreased on earlier levels on his first skill. The charge speed has been increased so that your first skill is easier to land. The range has been increased so that it's easier to land. The stun duration has been increased so that it pays off more if you land it. So basically, huge buffs to your first skill, which is nice. Then we have changes to your third skill, also buffs. So now instead of having a 5 attack limit, it has a 4 attack limit, but the damage is increased to compensate. And basically what this means is that your damage is going to be the same on earlier levels, but it's going to be easier to get the full benefit later on. So as you can see, base activation damage has been decreased by 10, for example, on level 1, and at the same time it has been buffed for every attack you gain. So basically, if you do the math on level 1, with your third skill you do the exact same damage. On level 2 you deal a bit more damage. So kind of a buff, kind of a nerf on the last level, but this is very important, because the problem with the hero when you gank, for example, is that you can't get those 5 attacks because you just come in flying with your ultimate and you're at 0 most of the time. Part of my strategy sometimes was to like first go in the jungle and like hit creeps a few times so that you get those charges and then jump on someone. But now you basically need less attacks to get the most amount of damage, and that's a good thing, because that was one of the design problems with the hero. And I'm not sure though how I feel about the buff to his early game, because on the third skill, because the skill is problematic. It's basically almost impossible to stay against a Sir Benzington in lane, because he just presses E, clicks on you, and half of your HP is gone. You go back, you heal, like eat a tree, drink a bottle, come back, presses E, clicks on you, half HP gone. You have to go back. Come back without healing, uses Q, presses E, you're dead. And that's how the hero is played, and then late game you just suck anyway, unless you get super farmed. So that has been kind of increased in strength, which I'm not sure I agree with, but the first skill being easier to land and stuff is definitely helped. So basically what I would have preferred to see instead would be something I mentioned in my review, was his other skills giving you charges instead of just attacks. So I think that would have been much more interesting than just decreasing the number of attacks and just buffing it accordingly. Just if you like your first skill and your ultimate give you some charges on your third skill, that would have been more interesting. And also a buff on his second skill I think was in order, because you just max it last and it's just a lackluster skill and it just sucks. And buffing your second skill would potentially increase build diversity. Instead of maxing E and Q, you would potentially grab your W sometimes, or even max W if it was that good. So yeah, that's kind of the nerf I would have suggested. So I don't agree with the way this was buffed, but I agree with the buff itself. Succubus, the cooldown of her ultimate has been decreased on higher levels, which is okay. Succubus did need a buff. Tempest, overall kind of nerfs on his first skill, and elementals deal less damage. Not much I have to say there. Tempest is a really strong hero, and I agree that he needed nerfs, and I agree with the way these nerfs were done, honestly. I think it was these are good changes. Tempest picked in competitive scene all the time, and even in pubs he's really easy to play. So yeah, screw this hero, he deserved these nerfs. Gladiator His second skill mana cost decreased, which is like whatever. The cooldown on his second skill has been decreased, which is like whatever. The ultimate cooldown has been decreased in higher levels, which is actually kind of significant because it allows you to try and cast it more often, and potentially even sometimes just using it for the movement speed since the cooldown is now low. But Gladiator, I still think he's a bit too difficult to play for the power he can achieve. The funny thing is though, according to his skills, he's supposed to go mid, and he's bad in the side lane because he just pushes the lane no matter what, thanks to his passive. But I've been going to side lane with Gladiator, and I've been having huge success. Like if I go in a side lane, I can get 400 or 500 GPM and rape the game. And if I go mid, I can potentially lose and feed the enemy mid because I suck and because the hero is kind of weak. But yeah, in lane, if you have like especially a stunning partner where you can line up your first skill and land it, this hero is actually pretty freaking good. The only minus downside is that you do push the lane, but while pushing it, you do harass the enemy team quite a bit. So, laning Gladiator, guys, explore it. It could be good. But other than that, he got buffs, which are kind of minor, to be honest. Next, we have those famous changes to Thunderbringer. Blast of Lightning can now be used on an ally or on yourself. The 75% movement speed bonus for 5 seconds is okay. I wish they would make it... Actually, no. I actually prefer it this way. To leave it like 75 bonus movement speed on each level instead of like making it like 30, 45, 60, 75. Because it potentially increases build diversity. Maybe someone will just grab your second skill once just for the movement speed bonus and for the like revelation it grants. So yeah, the main point here is the revelation. Use your second skill when like a Nighthound goes invisible near you. You use it on yourself and you see him again. So really important for revelation. And also remember that your second skill reveals wards and stuff. So it can be used to even counter ward now, which is huge. The movement speed increase is really good, and the increase in armor is also nice because he has no escape mechanism, so that will greatly help the hero. This hero has like one of the best changes, honestly. Probably one of the biggest good points about this patch. So really can't wait to try that guy. Tremble has been kind of buffed, so the mana cost of your second skill has been decreased. The traps that you said, because 150 was huge. The mana cost of your ultimate has been decreased on earlier levels, which is good. The minus armor your pet gives has been increased, and the ensnare duration has been increased on earlier levels. So all of these changes are minor, except for potentially the last one. The extra 0.5 seconds duration in your ensnare early game can be huge, because when you use your first skill, like you take the time to micro, like select the pet or like make bounds and then use your Q skill on some enemy you're chasing, and when it only lasted for a second, it was really underwhelming that you went through so much trouble and the payoff is so low. So that's good, but overall I don't think this is enough of a buff to Tremble. He's just not very good of a carry, and he can't really do much else. I guess people can still try explore like ganking the entire map with his pet, and the extra minus armor should help you kill people when you're ganking. But yeah, kind of okay changes, I guess. It helps, but I wish there were more, and more interesting ones too. Then you have Chandra, vision increased by 100 on early levels of his bird, which is whatever. And the Cold Shoulder, his third skill cooldown has been decreased. Yeah, the first change is significant, the vision change is whatever. So I do think Tundra needed buffs, and I like these changes. So yeah, kind of good. Next, I have Voodoo Jester, the most annoying hero in the universe, has been changed. I'm dying. I am dying. My hair is spinning from all this loud talking. So the cast range of your third skill, which is one of the most annoying things in the game, has been increased so that it's easier to land. Then the second change you can ignore pretty much, and the range of your ultimate has been increased on earlier levels. So what I think about this, underpowered or not, Voodoo Jester is one of the most annoying heroes in the game. I seem to be some kind of magnet for his first skill, because it just always jumps on me no matter what. Like there's 10 creeps nearby, it will jump on me, I guarantee it. So his third skill, also one of the most annoying skills in the game. You use it, and you just deal a bit of damage and the enemy dies, and that's how it works. If you just manage to pull it off, he's probably dead. It's undeniable, undispellable, which makes it even more annoying, and it deals damage over time throughout the duration, not just in ticks, so you can't like heal with a potion or anything, and there's no counterplay. So what I would have preferred as a buff would be not to make his like strong points even stronger, like when they're so annoying. Make you buff like his second skill, so that maybe the build where you max your W is more viable or something. Buff him that way, or that he heals more late game when you finally pick it up. Not like buff his annoying skills. I think that's the wrong approach. War Beast, damage of his first skill has been increased. Extra farming speed, extra pushing power, good stuff. The Battle Cry cooldown has been increased. I'm not sure why its level is a buff because it's a nerf. So that's kind of a compensation. So I've started to max my second skill instead of my third one when jungling, because it just helps your ally so well. But now apparently I will have to change that and just grab my third skill, which I guess increases build diversity and makes Suicide War Beast a bit worse, kind of. But overall I like these buffs because War Beast is kind of a weak hero, to be honest, but at the same time there's that annoying part about him where once he reaches level 6 it's almost impossible to gank him in the jungle. So yeah, kind of okay changes, but I don't know. Weird changes. They make me feel weird, which means something is wrong. Okay, and the last change is for Wretched Hag. The slow on her first skill has been reduced, which from 10 seconds to 7 seconds, not too significant, but kind of helps. The mana cost on your third skill has been increased on higher levels, so that her farming speed is basically slowed down. And the damage of your ultimate has been decreased on higher levels. So what are my thoughts on this? First of all, I want to mention Swindle Melons, one of the best players on the best team right now. His opinion was that Hag is a good hero, like she's in a perfect spot, and nerfing her is not the right way to go about things, and you should buff other heroes. My opinion is that her blink is annoying. I hope she dies and burns in a horrible fire. She's a hero that can suicide and solo lane and farm and deal a ton of damage, and she can basically do everything, plus she has a blink on top of this. So screw this hero. I hope I never see her again, and I like these buffs. Nerfs. So next we're gonna go for item changes. So first of all, the new item, Ioin Stone. I don't know why they put an I there. Maybe it's Ioin Stone. So basically, I will call it Iron Stone from now on, because whoever put Y there is trolling too hard. So it gives 60 health and 45 mana. It's not like regen or unactivation, or it's just 60 health and 45 mana, which is basically kind of more or less 3 minor totems. So if you get this item as a support, which you probably should get it on supports, it costs 300 gold only, you kind of get a bit of health and mana, because it's expected that if you get this item, you won't god damn it, my voice, you won't have much survivability, and you're missing out on a lot of stats. So basically they're kind of making it up for supports that do get this item, so that they're not too squishy. So basically how this works is that you can capture any rune without actually taking it, except for refreshment, that will take it. So basically you can capture a haste rune and it will stay at the same spot, but you get its effects. So you get 3 lesser effects of it. So basically if you capture a haste rune, instead of giving you permanent maximum movement speed, it will give you 25% bonus movement speed and 25% slow resistance for, I think it was like 10 seconds or something, instead of 30 or 15, or maybe it was for 8 seconds, I don't remember exactly. And you can use it 3 times, and you can use it on yourself, or, interesting thing, you can use it on allies too. So another fun thing is that because you don't take the rune, you can keep charging it forever. So you can essentially, if you find an illusion rune, keep creating tons of illusions and sending them, but they only last for 2 seconds, so you can send them to like the first mid tower, but that's about all you can do with it, because they last so little. Very interesting item, like huge addition to the game, amazing idea. Basically promotes ganking, of course, and also in a way that you don't have to take the mid's rune and he can still take it. So basically now you'll see many more people camp runes, which will make me rage more for sure. But at the same time, it promotes ganking and roaming around the map, and just a really interesting item. Just the concept of not taking the rune and what happens with the refreshment. Well, if you get a refreshment rune, you basically get 2 bottle charges, 2 bottle sips. In other words, the same as if you had a bottle, and it consumes it, like actually uses it up. So yeah, god damn it, I'm dying. Really good item, I think. It will add a lot to the game. Can't wait to make a video with it. So it says here, does not stack with other iron stones or bottles. Yeah, so basically you can get a bottle and an iron stone. And also the rune effects don't stack with their lesser versions. In other words, if you get like double damage, you can't use an iron stone damage effect, which is like only 30%. But like they won't stack together. So another thing you can do sometimes is you capture a rune, let's say haste, and then you take it. So you get like the full effect of the rune of a haste, and then you can like have 3 lesser effects for later on yourself or on your allies. So that's really cool. Next we have Spell Sunder, new item. It looks like that. Can you see it entirely? I don't think so. No, it's too big. So there, now you can see the recipe and stuff. So basically the components, kind of an expensive item. Deals magic damage to target for 3 seconds. Basically deals magic damage to anyone who you deal magic damage to. This is confusing, but when you deal any magic damage to someone, it will apply damage over time to them from this item and deal some more damage, and then it will wear off. And this damage it deals, this item, depends on its current health. What does this mean? It means that this item is kind of good against heroes who have a ton of HP. Like, let's say Devourer with like 4000 HP. 3% of his maximum health is gonna be 120 damage. Plus the 5 that it has, it's 5 plus 3%. So, in other words, 125 damage per second for 3 seconds. That's over 300 damage for an item that only costs like 2000 gold. That's a pretty good effect every time you deal any magic damage to it. So, obviously, this is amazing on heroes that deal magic damage often, like for example Thunderbringer on a really low cooldown, low mana cost with his first skill. So I can potentially see this picked up on him. And it also works for half of the effect on damage over time skills, which isn't always obvious. For example, Slither's and Hag's first skills, they deal damage in ticks. So it's kind of damage over time, but kind of not. But it counts as damage over time for this skill. In other words, it's good on Slither, but not as good as it could be, because Slither essentially has 0 normal magic damage. He has like damage over times. Although I'm not sure how his first skill procs at first, but you get the idea. So it's probably really good on Hag because the damage over time effect of it, that deals half of the damage, and the normal effect of it, they stack. So if you get Hag, use your first skill Haunt, and it like ticks and deals damage from this item Spell Sunder, and then you Bat Blast, which is normal magic damage, it will apply another effect of it with full strength and not half. So you will have like 1.5 the strength of the item effect on the target. So my opinion on this item is that it's a good addition into the game against high HP heroes. So like you can get it as a counter when you see someone going for tanky items already. So like you can kind of predict, oh, the enemy team has a Berserker, oh, the enemy team has a Devourer. Getting this item, like starting to build it now, is probably a good idea to stop him from snowballing too hard. So the idea of the item is good. The bad thing about it though is that the damage is not too high. So for example, an accursed with a Behemoth's Heart and a Shaman's Headdress, which is not too crazy or anything, will, even on full HP, almost heal through the damage that this item deals. He'll almost heal through it, and if he's like half HP, he will heal more than this item deals damage. So since it's current health and not max health, that means the lower it gets on HP, the less of the effect that the item has. So it's even more super horrible against people who just don't have much HP in general. So it basically helps you bring people down to low HP, but it doesn't really kill them yet, which I can imagine more rage over this, like, oh my god, he survived at 1 HP, blah blah. But Yeah, an interesting item addition. I suppose it should be more on the weaker side once it's first introduced, but could be a bit stronger, I think. Works well on some heroes, works bad on some other ones. Completing the item gives you no stat bonuses, like they stay exactly the same. You just get this effect of whenever you deal magic damage, it applies this damage over time thingy that depends on the target's health. At the end of the day, I like this item because it's basically kind of cheap, so you can pick it up on support. That's the reason I like this item. It's an item you can get for supports that makes an impact on heroes that have a ton of health, which usually supports suck against. So supports get something to fight them with. So yeah, really smart item, I think. So kind of good. But the components, I'm not sure about that. Maybe they could have been better, like more underused ones. But whatever. Next we have Lightbrand and components, blah 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 blah. Damage changed from magic damage to true damage and reduced. What this means that against heroes, this will be only a little bit worse against heroes. Mostly will be the same. In most cases, it will actually be better because it goes through Shrunken Head. Against creeps, it will be worse. You will basically farm slower now. And last but not least, Grimoire of Power is part of this. Damage decreased from 35 to 20 and changed to true damage. So you're like, oh my god, SomaZ, another Grimoire of Power nerf. So Spell Shards is even better now. Actually, no. Grimoire is even better now. I can guarantee you, people will pick up Grimoire even more. Because read on. So Incendiary's cooldown decreased from 7 seconds to 5 seconds. Increases the kind of counterplay, or so to speak, or like the potential of the item, which is a really good thing, I think. Why is my voice dying? God damn it. So yeah, I really like this change. So I think they could have maybe buffed the item slightly in a different way, maybe just overall stats, because like it doesn't really pay for itself that well because of how fast you lose HP. But meh, good buff, could be worse. Finally, Lex Leona is getting a change. My suggestion was to completely remove the mana cost, because you apply the effect to yourself as well. It's not to the enemy, just to the enemy. And also it doesn't really cancel a Nullstone, so it's not that good. But thank God they're at least decreasing it significantly. So now 50 mana. 50 mana is like half a stun for a support hero. That's huge. So now it's only 25, which means people can actually pick it up and use it now. Like, I guarantee you, this item will now see more use. I would have preferred it to have no mana cost, but I'm not as two, so I don't control that. And the range increase also helps you stay safe after you use it. So this is good. This is good. I like it. Really good changes, finally. Next we have Null Fireblade. The thing they say here is very good and right, that Null Fireblade has a very specific purpose. You pick it up to counter stuff like potentially Dark Lady's buffs that give her the silence and bonus damage and attack speed, or Jirzai's shield or ultimate. So now picking it up for those purposes is pretty much easier, and just an overall buff to the item, and you can use the God damn it! And you can use the effect more often. So range increased, cooldown decreased, cost decreased. So it's easier to get it, and basically makes the item stronger and potentially picked up more often. So yeah, really like this change. Next, Spell Shards was murdered. It was killed, and not just like with a normal shot. It was just like stabbed repeatedly, and then like the corpse was carved, and they were like, well, is it dead enough? And someone was like, no, let's kill it more. So Spell Shards is dead. That's why Grimoire of Power is good. Like, so before, people picked up Grimoire of Power because it's a really easy item. Even if it's not very cost efficient, it's easy. It fixes your mana issues, it gives you stats, so it makes you survive a bit better, and it allows you to farm. So not very cost efficient perhaps compared to other items like Spell Shards, but it was basically very easy because it fixed everything. So that's why people kept getting it. You can get it on virtually any hero. And while your gold is a bit wasted maybe, it's still a good pickup. Now though, it doesn't have a competitor in terms of magic damage because Spell Shards has been destroyed. So the cost has been increased from 800 to 1200, and it can no longer be upgraded. You just get it once, and now instead it just penetrates half of the target's magic armor instead of like 246. So let me begin explaining how this item is really bad now. So there was one thing that I kind of talked about, which was Spell Shards helped you kill Ancients faster. So that is no longer true or as true because Asians have either 5.5 magic armor, in which case you're only reducing it by like 2.5, or in the case of Dragon, you're reducing it by 4 or 6 depending on the size. In other words, worse than the previous spell shards. And you're thinking, well, the cost efficiency is better because now just with like level 1 spell shards you can, if they get a shaman's headdress, reduce it by more than like 6 magic armor. But like, spell shards wasn't limited to level 1 before. That was never the case. Spell shards, you could always upgrade to level 3. It wasn't like anyone ever got spell shards just level 1 and then move on to other items. That's ridiculous. You can't compare level 1 spell shards or level 2 just because the new ones are limited and you're like, well, it's more cost efficient on level 1. No. You could upgrade them further before. The point stands, before you could reduce the enemy's magic armor by 6 no matter what, now you can't. So it's only better than level 3 spell shards from before if the target gets a shaman's headdress, and even then not by much. How often does do enemy heroes get shaman's headdress? How often does that happen? Tell me. Even with Mystic Vestments, it's still kind of worse. And it's not like you're completely like screwing them over, like, ha, you got shaman's headdress, you shouldn't have done that, I have spell shards. They still work. They're just half as effective against you specifically, and still fully effective against everyone else. And also, it's now a really like early item. Like, you're wasting your gold on such like a cheap item for one slot, like such an ineffective item essentially. You're much better off if you're trying to carry or deal a lot of magic damage going for a Grimoire. Like, you should never go for spell shards now. It's worse than Grimoire if the enemy team doesn't have like Mystic Vestments, or like about the same. So someone thought, hey, wait a second, spell shards is pretty bad, right? It's not picked up often. How about we take it and completely kill it off? Yeah, that's good for the game, and so they did. They completely destroyed this item. It's horrible now. It's like I've been known for my math and comparisons between spell shards and Grimoire. Like, you can forget all about that. Hey, here's my advice: get a Grimoire, never get spell shards ever again. This item is just bad now. Like, so what if they get like shaman's head? Like that's the only case where you could potentially consider getting this item. As if late game you're like having trouble dealing magic damage and you see like some accursed or devoured got like a shaman's headdress, and you're like, well, okay, I'll get spell shards against that. What other skills are there besides Devour's passive? Arachna's second skill and Magebane's blink gives him magic armor, and that's it. And it's not like it completely negates them, it just makes them half as effective. They still get bonus magic armor based on what they already had against you. So this item was just killed. It's dead. Horrible change. Why? This is a sad day for spell shards. I won't make those comparisons anymore. If you want to carry with magic damage, don't get spell shards. Just, here's my advice: get Grimoire. Now people will get Grimoire even more. So have the master effects, new Rally, new Pyromancer, new Succubus effects. Those are all kind of meh. Rally, more range, increased damage. Pyromancer now deals damage in an area around the main target, 50%. Succubus increased the ultimate based on what it did before, in addition to what it did before. So, whatever, that's okay. Staff of the Master still sucks most of the time. Wingbow. Oh yeah, Staff of the Master sucks most of the time. Staff of the Master might actually become better now because Spell Shard sucks. Because there's no other way besides Grimoire of Power of increasing your damage, except for maybe like, what is it called? Harkon's Blade. So maybe Staff of the Master will see more use on heroes that want more damage, I don't know. So Wingbow. Increased attack range by 100 for ranged heroes now, in addition to what it did previously. For melee heroes, reflects 25% of the damage that you would have taken if you didn't evade an attack. So, in other words, on average, if like the chance to evade is 30%, 25% of that will be reflected. So, about 7.5% damage reflected. That's bad, but I mean, like, it's in addition to what was there previously. Also, another thing to note is that melee heroes get countered really hard by a Savage Mace, because it reflects 25% of damage when you evade an attack. In other words, if someone gets Savage Mace with True Strike where he can't miss, and that will mean that he not only completely cancels your evasion, but he cancels your reflection at the same time. So, sucky change in my opinion for melee heroes. For ranged heroes, also kind of sucky, but a nice addition. There's one hero that potentially benefits from this change, and that is Emerald Warden, because he has 625 range. 25 range more than most other heroes, because now he can outrange towers if he gets a wing bow. So this puts his range at 725 if he gets a wing bow, which outranges towers with 700 range. Every other hero that has like 600 or 500 range, it won't matter. Towers will still get them, and Flint already outranged it anyway, so it won't matter for him much. So in other words, potentially get this on Emerald Warden to turn him into a tower killer where he doesn't take damage. Not too big of an impact, but it's something. Yeah, interesting buff to wing bow. But it's still not too crazy good or anything because of how little the effect is of this buff. Last but not least, any items that you can activate on yourself only can now be used while channeling. So they no longer cancel like a TP or like a Tempest Ultimate or something. So here's a list of items, you can go through it, and that's gonna be it. So you might have noticed that I was kind of unhappy about a lot of changes. I have a list here of heroes that were not mentioned, that were not in the patch that I would have liked to see, so I will go through it quickly. First of all, Arachna. The problem with the hero is that she has very poor farming speed, and even though she kind of like plays well early game and is kind of annoying to play against, she really falls behind late game because she just can't farm. She can only rely on her last hits to farm and attacks. So would have liked to see some changes to Arachna to make her more of a late game hero. It doesn't count if you get super stomped mid and Arachna wins the game with 500 GPM. Normally, if an Arachna has the same amount of farm as like other heroes, she will fail compared to other carries. And it's going to be hard to get the same amount of farm anyway to begin with. So Arachna is a hero I would have liked to have seen but didn't. Shadowblade is another hero. I don't care that Testy can get like 300 agility with his like 1000 GPM in 1500 games. In a normal game, a player with a Shadowblade is at a disadvantage against a player with another hero because Shadowblade is kind of weak. You either go for a glass cannon build where you deal a ton of damage but you die in one moment, or you go for a super tanky build where you don't deal any damage but you just survive and do nothing. So would have liked to see some changes in the Shadowblade but didn't. Pearl, next hero. Pearl received no changes. Is she super strong or something? Yes, she's annoying to play against kind of because of the way her skills work, but she's still weak. Not picked on the competitive scene, so yeah, I'm surprised Pearl was not changed. Really was hoping for changes in her. Next, Vindicator, don't even have to say much else. Why did this hero still not get buffed? Artesia, also would have liked to see buffs on her. I don't know why. Cersei, she's a hero that's basically has a really good concept. Like the ideas and the design is good, but like she's just straight up underpowered. She just needs buffs and then she'll shine. So Cersei is a hero that didn't receive the buffs, potentially because of the introduction to the competitive scene, and they'll see that she's not picked at all there, and then they'll buff her. So we'll wait for that. Demented Shaman also, his first skill is just too trashy in the damage it deals, and basically the only thing Demented Shaman good for is his heal. So the only way you can win in lane is with your heal bomb. When the enemy hero comes up to the creeps to try and hit them in last hit, you just heal and deal a ton of damage to him, and that's really the only thing he can do. I would like to see a buff on this hero, so to kind of like open up more playstyles besides that. So Geomancer is also another hero that I was hoping for buffs on but didn't see any. Revenant, another one which is kind of like forgotten because he doesn't have that much of a significant impact on the game. So would have liked to see a bit of a Revenant buff, but then Riftwalker, another hero that just sucks. I mean, her second skill is absolute trash. And she's kind of a hero that basically sucks early game, but she makes up for it by being really strong later on in like the mid game, because her ultimate is so good. Like her ultimate is like makes the hero amazing. But I don't think that's a good design if like you have to sacrifice your lane, like you have to lose your lane in order to like have a support that's decent without farm or levels maybe. So yeah, kind of like would like to change some changes on Rift Walker. And last I want to mention is Bramble. Yeah, not much to say there. Bramble needs some help and he's not getting any, so that's disappointing. So overall, quite a big list of heroes that were not changed that I was hoping to would get changed. Also, a lot of the changes, as you might have heard me, I did not agree with, because they were kind of like either kind of wrong or like in the wrong, not necessarily the wrong direction, but done in a wrong way. But most of the changes are good. Most of them like have the right minds, or like the right direction in terms of like buff or nerf. And the new items are interesting, especially the Iron Stone, or Iron Stone, whatever you call it. So the spell Sunder a bit underwhelming. Dawnbringer will still be good, especially like against Shrunken Headed heroes, especially in heroes that you pick up Lightbrand last. And other changes are overall like good, but like nothing too crazy. Nothing. Yes, a lot of balance changes, 3.3, big number, but like nothing too crazy happened. So I'm gonna have to give this patch a 7 out of 10. Good patch, but really that's kind of it. A lot of changes I thought could have been done much better. Really, if not for the new items, this patch would have received a much worse mark. Well, that's gonna be it for this video. I've talked long enough, my voice is dying, and I'll see you guys for a gameplay video next time.